Because, verse 26, for this would be better if you just had the word because. Because of this, because they did all of this, God gave them up unto vile affections. Vile affections are passions of infamy. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against what? And likewise the men also. There also has to go where I read it, or you're at the wrong place. And likewise the men also, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving back in full in themselves that recompense, retribution of their error, their wickedness, which was due them. You see, when man goes by his reasonings, rather than by the truth of God, when he hits bottom with his reasoning, he always comes up with homosexualities and the lesbian gals. Always. Because the lowest thing on the totem pole is homosexuality. When a man has arrived at that spot, the Word says he's cut himself off from God. I don't give a hoot what you say. Likewise with the women. That's what the Word's talking about in plain English. And nobody's ever so stupid that they can't understand it, but they don't want to. Because we want the government protection for the homos. We go march Washington with placards, you know. Homo protection. Well, why don't they go home? Or do something to the Lord. People, I can read this first chapter of Romans, and it just sounds like it was written this afternoon at 4 o'clock in our culture. Worshipping things of man's hands, creations of man's hands, little images, this, that, and everything else, reasonings. Why, have you ever seen an age when there's been any less reasoning than today? Man's always reasoning things. And when man forsakes God, the true God, and worships that of his own making more than the Creator, who is blessed forever, then he goes down the drain, he gets into homosexuality, all this other lesbian junk, and it's real devilish. This is the kind of age we live in today. The kind of society. And somebody say, well, boy, we can't stand up against the homos. No, we don't try to. The church in California, my own former denomination, headed up the move to get the homos the freedom in the United States that if they want a homo, they can homo. Between two consenting adults. Oh, nuts. The Word. The verse says they didn't. Verse 28. They did not like to retain God in knowledge. They didn't want to know the true God. They fell away. Therefore, God gave them up to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. which are not kosher, which are not right, which are dishonest, which are lustful. Being filled with all unrighteousness. Fornication is not in the text. Wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder. Debate is the word strife. Deceit. Malignity is mischief. Whisperers, backbiters. God's haters. Despiteful is the word insolent. Proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, lawbreakers, agreement breakers. That's like you make an agreement today. See, you get an attorney, somebody else gets an attorney, whoever got the smartest attorney or whatever it is. The Bible sets it yes, yes, no, no. Used to be, not too many years ago, I guess you could even do it on a handshake. Two men agree to something, shake hands, that was it. Or you had a small earnest to deposit that covered it. Today we write 600-700 pages. Nobody can find through it. Right. Then you got to hire another attorney to figure out what that other attorney did. One corporation hires their battalion of attorneys, the other corporation hires theirs. And so we buy. Boy, why don't we just read the Word of God? Change our attitude. Without natural affection, you get involved in the homo deal, and you'd rather be with a man than the best woman in the world. She don't turn you on at all. Pretty low caste. Pretty sad state. When God originally made man and woman, man's supposed to turn a woman on, woman's supposed to turn man on. The Word. Without natural affection, implacable is scratched. Unmerciful is pitiless. Have you asked yourself why man can be so inhuman to his fellow men? Why they can drive things into their eyeballs, sticks into their eyeballs, sticks underneath their fingers, put them through the brainwashing techniques. Why does one man do this to another man? Because he's walked away from whom? God. And I'll guarantee you that whoever does that is involved and agreeable to homosexuality and everything else that goes with it, because he is pitiless. If his own son would have to die in it, it wouldn't bother him any. He'd just lay him in a cemetery and collect the insurance. That's right. He's not hurt at all. That's what the word unmerciful means. Pitiless. Verse 32. Who, these men, knowing the judgment, the righteous sentence of God, that they which commit, who practice such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure or consent to them Does that do them? These people not only do the same, but they got pleasure in those who do. They try to recruit to get their gang enlarged of unbelievers. This is the great first chapter of the book of Romans. Sets first of all that a man of God is one who has to be sold out to the Word. He has to tell it like it is. He has to lay it on the line. Because any man of God will separate from himself others who do not want to believe that word. And I don't care how good a personality you've got. That's right. People say to me, I've got a good personality sometimes. They like me for the teaching of the word. They don't like to chew bread with me. Good Lord, you could have your personality in me. It wouldn't help anything. Personality is not what, once again, people are against God, and the person just becomes the scapegoat. All Asia left Paul, the mighty man of God with the greatest revelation, and before he died, all Asia Minor had separated out from him. He only had a little handful. Was it Paul's personality, or was it the gospel? You'd say it was his personality. That's what the homos and the rest of the unbelievers would say. It was his personality. It wasn't his personality. They didn't want God in the way which God must be understood and received according to the revelation of the Word. That's all. He is the Spirit of holiness. We have grace. Apostolic grace. All of these things, the righteousness of God, the peace. And over on the other side, when people forget that grace, the greatness of that, they start moving against the true God. And when they move against the true God, they end up in exactly what the latter part of the first chapter indicates. That's how these two are set. In the opening chapter of the greatest declaration of freedom that man has ever had. On this foundational principle, in the book of Romans, the whole book now unfolds, and in the light of this, the whole church of the body to which you and I belong will live. Those who live by the first part of this chapter will accept the grace of God, the righteousness of God, and being justified, they will believe to walk this way, right? The rest are just flip the other way.